Welcome to San Antonio, Texas for Game 2 of our doubleheader on Tiger Network. This game between the Centenary Gentlemen and the Trinity Tigers. As first pitch is high and we are underway. Leadoff man for Centenary, Clay Menard, hitting where he did in the first part of this doubleheader against UT Dallas, a game in which Centenary fell 16-12. Second pitch in for strike one. The pitcher for Trinity, Luke Pfeiffer, making his third start of the year. He's been the Saturday starter, trying to settle in. As that's fouled off. It was a rough outing last time. We'll see how Pfeiffer responds.
Yeah, and it was a tough outing against a very, very tough opponent. It was the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater that Pfeiffer saw in his last start. It's a top 25 team in the country and a team that put up a ton of runs here in San Antonio in their first couple of games, combined 35 through their first two contests against Trinity.
Inside, as it'll bring it to a full count. Menard went 1 for 4 in the game earlier today. And he's on board with a walk.
I think this is the story that we've seen largely out of Luke Pfeiffer when he's made these appearances on the mound. No, he has very good stuff. It's just more of a matter as to whether or not he can go out there and channel all of that. He's issued some free passes at times, and more than anything else has worked the majority of his at-bats behind in the count, but does a nice job right here of getting this first pitch strike across and getting out ahead here 0-1.
Pfeiffer facing Carson Levisay, you saw on your screen, hitting over 400 so far this season. So that's grounded foul. Levisay hitting second in this game, hit third earlier today. 0 for 3 with a walk and a hit by pitch. Levisay still looking for his first hit on the day. Not something he normally goes very long without doing. Runner on first due to the leadoff walk, nobody out in the inning. Grounded, could be 2, throw to second for 1, throw to first, not in time, but they get the lead runner and there's 1 away.
It's a good job from Pfeiffer right here. It looks like it might have been a changeup that he tried to throw in on the hands. Couldn't exactly see the way this one finished, but it's one way or another a good result as he induces a soft ground ball to the right side of the infield. Brandon Nelson, who we've talked about pretty extensively this year, not known for his glove work, but he's been very, very steady over there at first. He's made some nice plays throwing on down.
Runner goes, throw to second, not held on to, so a stolen base for Carson Levisay and a runner in scoring position.
Another thing that we've seen now 2 evenings or 2 days in a row is Colt Harris getting run into on these plays as runners attempting to take second base. Last night it happened in the game against UT Dallas, and again some contact there, but Harris able to pop up rather quickly.
The first year Alex Miller in the batter's box. Takes ball 1 high. Miller hitting over 400 in his first season with the Gentlemen. Hit in the air, but no play for Tinker, even though he gives it a look.
And that one pretty easily out of play right there. Miller catching a bit of a break. He's well out in front of that one. Even then, couldn't really get that one off the barrel and off the hands. It pops up and just gets over that fence down the left field line.
Swing and a miss, strike 2. Miller went 1 for 4 in the game earlier. A double and a hit by pitch. Him and Levisay going 1 for 4 and 0 for 3. A large reason why the Gents couldn't come out with the win against UT Dallas. Try and change that here. They say he didn't offer, and it brings it to another full count.
One way or another, a very good spot right here from Pfeiffer. We'll see on the replay. The hands catch very quickly for Miller, but it's right at that plane.
Runner goes. Hit past the dive of Champness. Livesey around, he scores, and it's 1-0 Centenary in the top of the first. An RBI single for Alex Miller.
Yeah, and a good time to be sending the runner right there. I'm not sure if that's a hit and run situation, but one way or another, in a full count, Miller having to protect. He gets something that hangs up in the zone. Good job from Livesey, avoiding that baseball so as not to get struck in the base paths. But because he was on the move, he's going to score rather easily. Otherwise, it might have been a closer play at the plate. That one with quite a bit behind it as it scorches through the infield.
The ball just finding a spot, and it warrants a meeting from pitching coach Dave Smith and catcher Nick Lazara. Still one down. RBI single for Alex Miller. He waits on first base, and Austin Benoit, the cleanup hitter, up to bat. Hitting .360 on the year. Takes ball one.
A nice play from Lazara back behind home plate right there. Fastball that's down, and realistically not a ton you can do with that one. Spiked well ahead of the plate. He does a nice job of just picking it cleanly.
They'll check on Miller, but back safely. Pfeiffer trying to settle into this inning. He's already given up a run. There's one down, one on. Runner goes, swing and a miss. It gets to the backstop. We'll have to see if that touched the bat of Benoit. The indication is it did not, and it's a stolen base for Alex Miller.
And perhaps the swing impacting Lazara back behind home plate, but one way or another, with a runner going, the ball down, if you choose to block that with your chest, not at great odds you're going to have to throw him out.
Ground ball through the middle. Miller being waved in. Throw not in time, and it's 2-0 Centenary.
And that last pitch, Lazara opting not to go down and keep it in front. Got away. One way or another, it was going to be a runner on second. And ultimately, it pays dividends for Centenary right here, as it's another breaking ball that Benoit really can't do all that much with, but he puts it on the ground. Smooth trajectory right there. Bouncing ball might be picked cleanly by Champness if it slows just a little bit. Instead, it splits the middle infielders. And very quickly, Centenary continuing right where they left off in game one.
Runner went again on that pitch as Joby Boone was up for the first time today, hitting fifth today. Fouled off, and it's 0-2. Boone came into the weekend hitting .383 on the year, now hitting .368. As he makes his 13th start of the season. Centenary going with the same 9 guys that they did in the last game. Similar approach that we saw from UT Dallas, who had to play a doubleheader yesterday. Swing and a miss, strike 3. First strikeout of the day for Luke Pfeiffer, and there's 2 down in the inning.
And right there, Pfeiffer showing us some of the stuff that he has. I mentioned it earlier. Most of his struggles stemming from the fact that he falls behind in counts. That time, gets ahead 0-2, and a very nice breaking ball with a lot of late movement that dips it just underneath the bat.
Still working with a runner on first. And now 2 down in the inning. Ball low, and it's 2-0. Working against Colin Pitts. Pitts hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 9th to make it a 4-run game against UT Dallas. Centenary couldn't make up the deficit. Was his first home run of the season. Is now ahead 2-1. Make it 2-2.
And that time, called strike on the breaking ball that finishes on the outside edge of the plate.
There's strike 3. Pfeiffer gets him looking. Allows 2 runs, but gets out of it after that, as the Tigers will come up to bat next on Tiger Network. Bottom of the first in San Antonio, and you see the Trinity Tigers lineup on your screen. Max Milligan leading it off in left field. Then the first year Caleb Woodward, catcher Nicholas Lazara in his usual spot, hitting third. And then the DH Christian Holloway hitting cleanup. Brandon Nelson hitting fifth, then followed by Harris, the center fielder Jack Peterson, Kai Tinker, and then Cam Champness making his first career start at shortstop. And pitching for Centenary, it's Jordan Hodges making his first start of the season. See the numbers for Hodges. Comes in with a 0-0 win-loss record, an ERA over 6. A whip at about 5.5 as he settles in to face Max Milligan. Milligan, who hasn't made a start in quite some time, getting an opportunity due to the injury of Ty Preston, who's expected back shortly. Still the Tigers trying to figure things out in left field. It's usually been Pierce Matthews, who's hit 3 homers on the year, but Milligan getting the chance today. As he hits that in the air, and the catch is made in the outfield grass by Boone.
Last night, I should say, we talked pretty extensively about coaching decisions revolving around this batting order, especially when it came to right-handed hitters and left-handed hitters. Yesterday, you mentioned Pierce Matthews getting the start and hitting that leadoff place in the order. Right-handed hitter that was going up against a left-handed starter for UT Dallas, who Trinity beat last night by a final score of 1-0. Now with Jordan Hodges out there on the mound for the Gents, a couple of lefties getting the start here for Trinity and Coach Scannell at the top of this order.
Now the second hitter, Caleb Woodward, up, getting his second start of the season. Woodward getting some time in right field. Had an injury sustained before the season started in practice, was trying to beat out a bunt. Tweaked his ankle a little bit, and now fully back and ready to go. As he finds himself in a 2-1 count. Takes ball 3.
Nice patience being displayed by Woodward right here in this at-bat. Fortunate for him, that one strike on the board coming on a little bit of a check swing that just cut a bit of the baseball and fouled it off.
And there's ball 4. Right at 3:45 p.m. as you hear the Trinity Tower in the background. Woodward reaches as the first Tiger runner is on first base.
Yeah, and ultimately that foul tip not coming back to haunt him, but nice to see Caleb Woodward work his way on base here for Trinity, an offense that struggled a little bit in yesterday's affair. Really couldn't get base runners on in any capacity. It was Ryan Vera for the Comets that threw a very outstanding game. 5 hits for these Trinity Tigers yesterday, but very few free passes handed out. Nice to see Woodward draw one early on today.
They check on him at first, but he's back safely. Now the catcher, Nick Lazara, in. Lazara hitting 3 as he has all year. We talk about it a lot. This is a guy you want to face with 2 outs and nobody on. That walk by Woodward, important with a guy like Lazara following him. Strike called.
And some real nice run on that pitch from Hodges. Just continued to move away from Lazara. I think he recognized the spin on it. Talk about it very frequently on Tiger Network. Typically, it's those catchers who step into the batter's box who have the greatest understanding of the zone, do a great job of recognizing pitches as well.
Runner goes, throw to second, gets away, and Woodward has a stolen base.
Woodward in there pretty cleanly. Gives a little bit of a fist bump to Boone as the two collide, and he sends Boone to the ground, but it was more than anything because he got to the bag so early. Woodward showing off some pretty impressive speed on the base paths right there.
The first stolen base in the career of Caleb Woodward. First of many, you would assume. As Lazara now works with a runner in scoring position with 1 out in the inning. Centenary took a 2-0 lead in the top of the first. Tigers trying to answer as Lazara takes that pitch away to make it 2-1.
Lazara continuing to demonstrate that eye, standing in the batter's box. Switch hitter who's equally as dangerous from either side of the plate.
Inside. And Hodges in danger of losing Lazara. The cleanup hitter, Christian Holloway, waiting on deck. Holloway drove in the only run in last night's game. A day where the Tigers really didn't find any rhythm offensively. Ball 4 and he loses them. Lazara heads to first base and there's 2 aboard with 1 down.
And Lazara ultimately not fazed by that strike call that I don't think he liked very much. It still didn't force him to start his hands and swing at anything, as there were a lot of pitches in that at-bat from Jordan Hodges that missed just outside the strike zone. Lazara demonstrating his eye.
See Christian Holloway's average 400, 14 RBIs already on the season. Takes ball 1. To put that RBI number in perspective, Holloway had 21 RBIs all of last year. Already at 14 as he's off to a blazing start with the bat. And the base traffic is going to warrant a meeting from Coach Mike Diaz. These 2 teams very familiar with each other. This is a rare out-of-conference game between Centenary and Trinity. These 2 squads will play the end of the season in conference play, the last possible weekend. And I would assume that game's going to mean something. Centenary and Trinity, the 2 and 3 seeds in the SCAC tournament last season, both finishing with very similar records. Swing and a miss, strike 1.
Hodges going to that breaking ball just to find his release point again. He does so successfully. Christian Holloway liking that pitch down in the zone. He had some success against pitches in that location yesterday.
Fouled off, and that makes it 1-2. So I don't know what they talked about in that brief time in the meeting, but obviously some success since then.
Yeah, clearly whatever it is, it's working. Hodges was behind before the meeting, now quickly ahead of Christian Holloway in this 1-2 count.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Goes with the pitch away and gets Holloway to swing, 2 down in the inning.
And again, using that breaking ball very effectively. I think recognizing that Christian Holloway, that at bat, was definitely hunting for pitches down in the zone. He put something on the ground through the middle of the infield yesterday. Another one of his hits was more of a line drive variety. He kept everything low in his launch angle. He's trying to do the same with pitch down there, and Hodges located that breaking ball well. Absolutely no chance to put bat on ball right there.
Now Brandon Nelson comes up to bat, playing first base today. Takes strike 1.
Again, you see just that little fade right at the end of things for Hodges. Nelson really began to move his hands, open up that shoulder, recognizing that fade and wanting to lay off anything on the outside part of the plate.
There's strike 2.
Now going to have to change things around just a little bit, maybe shorten up on that bat. Just has to display a willingness here to swing at something on the outside part of the plate and drive it the other direction if it's given to him.
Thought about it, but doesn't go. Ball gets away, and Woodward takes third. Lazara takes second. 2 in scoring position for Trinity.
And a bit odd right there on that one as Gauntz blocked it pretty well, and he kept it right in front of himself. He just didn't know exactly where it wound up. He got up out of his crouch very quickly, but started in the opposite direction. He went to the right side of our screen, and the baseball went the other way.
Nelson still in a 1-2 count. Ball high, 2-2.
A really great spot right there. We talked in the previous game about changing eye level and how so frequently pitchers make mistakes throwing it at the hitter's eyes. That one a really good spot right across the numbers. Nelson not at all fooled by it.
Thought about it, but a good take to bring the count full. 2 down, still with runners in scoring position. Centenary scoring 2 in the top of the inning. Trinity trying to match it. A walk would load the bases. Fouled off, and Nelson stays alive.
Yeah, very, very good pitch to hit right there. And Brandon Nelson certainly deserved it after working this to a full count. Remain patient, taking that pitch up, recognizing the breaking ball that wound up in the dirt. Forcing Hodges to throw stuff right over the heart of the plate right now, and we'll see if Nelson can take advantage of something in a similar spot.
Ball 4. And the bases are filled with cats with 2 down in the inning.
Just a very, very nice at-bat from Brandon Nelson right there. Had to work incredibly hard to get himself back in it, but once he did, he wasted a pitch in the zone, and Hodges, who had to work very hard and is continuing to work very hard, now up over 20 pitches in this half inning, is going to have to start a new at-bat to get out of it.
Harris takes strike 1, the second baseman hitting .320 on the year. An opportunity with the bases loaded to at least tie the game for the Tigers. Outside 1-1. You would think this is going to be a game that provides a lot of runs. Hodges usually coming out of the pen, making his first start of the season. Luke Pfeiffer, not somebody who's given a lot of length in recent starts. I think that these bullpens are going to be in it very soon. So that pitch was away, making it 2-1 to Harris. inside 3-1.
Harris, watch that first pitch strike that was called on that bottom corner, down and away from him. Been very patient, not fooled at all here in this at bat.
Nowhere to put him. Strike called outside edge, and another full count.
He goes right back to that same spot that he started the at-bat off with. Gauntz helping him out just a little bit behind home plate. A very, very good job of framing that pitch.
Full count, bases loaded. Ball 4. And a run scores for the Tigers.
And not a bad idea from Hodges right here. He tries to go right back to that same exact spot. Fastball down and away. But a pretty tough pitch to execute in that situation. High leverage, 3-2 count with the bases loaded, and misses just a little too low.
Tigers still looking for their first hit of the game. As Jack Peterson, the center fielder, comes up to bat, takes strike 1. We talk about it all the time. Peterson's so dynamic. See what he can do with the bases loaded. Fouled off, quickly 0-2.
Yeah, and for Hodges in this at-bat, it would be important to stay ahead in the count. Jumps ahead 0-1 in 2 consecutive at-bats. Does a better job here of coming right back at Peterson, forcing him to swing it, and doesn't get beat. Now he'll reap the benefits of going ahead 0-2.
Hit in the air to right, and it falls. That'll score 1, another coming in. The third being waved home. They'll actually send one back, but 2-run score off the Jack Peterson RBI double, 3-2 Trinity.
And these are certainly not the benefits of jumping ahead 0-2 in a count. Instead, Hodges throwing something that hangs up right over the middle of the plate. And Jack Peterson, already down 0-2, is having to look to protect. Usually by protect, that means battling pitches off that are on the outside edges of the strike zone, not something right down the heart of the plate. Peterson, who was ready to swing anyway, got a very hittable pitch, and he took advantage of it.
And that will be the day for Hodges. He leaves in the first inning, still responsible for the runners on second and third. 3-2 Trinity takes the lead. A pitching change in San Antonio. New pitcher on the mound in the bottom of the first. For Centenary, it's Logan Schmidt. Schmidt making his 3rd appearance of the season. the first year from Pearland, Texas, and he'll face Kai Tinker, 250 hitter playing third base today. Takes ball one. Schmidt thrown into a difficult situation with runners on second and third. A 2 RBI double by Jack Peterson to give the Tigers the 3-2 lead. Ball two. And Luke, you get the feeling it's just going to be that type of game. Centenary just got out of one of those 16-12. We're on pace for another one.
Yeah, it's certainly been a long week for Centenary as they're trying to find a way back into the win column. Played, of course, earlier today, a game yesterday, and I know another one earlier this week. 4 games plus. Certainly a very taxing week of the early part of this season, especially in the bullpen.
Already on their second pitcher today in the first inning. Starter Hodges exiting this game. 3-1 pitch. Strike called.
Tinker pretty comfortable taking that one all the way, certainly finishing on the outside part of the zone.
You hear the energy coming from the Tiger bullpen. Full count, 2 outs. Outside ball 4, bases loaded again.
And pretty interesting at the moment. Schmidt enters this game, our first opportunity to see him here on Tiger Network. Pretty much all of his offerings, his mechanics have looked the same, and they've included him falling off as he's finishing down that left side of the mound. And more often than not in that at-bat against Kai Tinker, those pitches that missed outside the zone were far on the left side.
So now an opportunity for Cam Champness, hitting 9th today, making his first career start with the Tigers. Thought about it, but doesn't offer. 1-1. Strike 2.
It seems like all these Trinity hitters very content to take pitches with as many balls have been thrown here in the bottom of the first, but now 2-strike count. Champness going to have to shorten up and protect.
Outside, it gets away. The runners will stay where they are. Gaunt's able to keep it near enough to hold them.
Yeah, second time this inning where we've seen one nearly run away from Gaunt's, but he gets just enough on that baseball to make it die after it skips off of him.
2-2. Outside, another full count.
An opportunity for Schmidt well ahead in this at-bat to get out of the bottom of the first. 2 pitches that he can afford to waste, but can't make them competitive enough right there. 2 breaking balls that were buried into that other batter's box.
Harris on third, Peterson on second, Tinker on first. There's strike 3. Champness strikes out looking, and that ends the inning. The Tigers leave them loaded, but not before they take a 3-2 lead as we head to the second. Top of the second in San Antonio. Trinity leading this game 3-2. Luke Pfeiffer left in the top of the first inning, frustrated visibly, but now works with a 1-run lead. Situation has completely changed for him since he exited. Swing and a miss, 1-1. As he faces Walker Wicklund, native of Shreveport, Louisiana, where Centenary College is. Hit in the air. Champness back in the outfield grass. And he makes the catch for out number 1.
And Pfeiffer stepping back onto the mound with a very different looking ball game. Still not a huge advantage, but getting 3 runs of support after you give up 2 yourself is a huge confidence boost, because I think it not only gives the opportunity to pitch with a lead, but instills the confidence that the offense is going to be alive and awake today and is likely going to produce some more runs as we continue here in San Antonio.
There's ball 1 to the catcher, Jake Gantz. You saw the numbers on your screen, hitting over 320 this season. Gantz has appeared in all 3 of Centenary games so far this weekend, as that looks like it's fouled off the umpire. Lazara checking on him.
Yeah, Lazara spinning around pretty quick, making sure the umpire was all good. Looked like that one got a pretty good piece of his face mask. You can usually tell off the deflection. It ricocheted pretty much straight to the right off of our screen. The ball back to Pfeiffer rather quickly, who readies and delivers again.
So that's high, ball 2. Pfeiffer already getting a quick out. Swing and a miss. Evens the count at 2-2. Got him, strike 3. Second strikeout of the game for Luke Pfeiffer, and there's 2 away.
And right before Pfeiffer made that delivery home, Lazara behind home plate, motioned with his hands just over the plate, trying to funnel all of those pitches right over the heart. Talked about it already. Pfeiffer, when he struggles, usually it's because of command. Clearly has very good movement and very good stuff, but he's missing, or when he's missing, it's usually right to left, not so much vertically. And even if you are missing vertically, it has the opportunity to just change the eye level of these hitters in the batter's box. And I think that's what he's using very well at the moment, going up and down, but not so much left to right.
High, ball 1. As Pfeiffer got ahead quickly, 0-2. To the 9-hole hitter, Morse, playing second base today. High again, that evens the count. Pfeiffer's retired the first 2 batters he's seen in this inning, trying to go for a 1-2-3. And outside.
And it seems like Lazara is setting up on that outside part of the plate. With 2 outs here already in the top of the second, want to challenge these hitters as much as possible, and it's exactly what he returns to. Lazara lining up right down the middle right there, and Pfeiffer able to deliver right on target.
Morse fouls that off. In the dirt, from 0-2 to 4-2, Pfeiffer loses them.
And I think that's largely because of a couple of pitches in the middle of the at-bat where he goes back to trying to throw that breaking ball with a little bit more sweeping action, horizontal movement, get it to break away from the hitter into that opposite batter's box. But these gents have shown here in San Antonio this weekend that they're more than capable with the bat in their hands.
Ground to the third. Softly, Tinker throws in time to end the inning. Luke Pfeiffer allows a walk with 2 outs, but then gets out of it. Still 3-2 Trinity as we head to the bottom of the second. Bottom of the second in San Antonio. All 9 batters came up to the plate in the bottom of the first. So the leadoff man once again leads off this inning as Max Milligan takes strike 1.
And the fact that Milligan wasn't able to reach in his first plate appearance of the afternoon, was retired to start the defensive efforts for Centenary, makes it that much more impressive that the Tigers ultimately did scratch 3 in the home half of the first.
Inside 2-1. Milligan was the first out of that last inning. The next 2 batters walked. And then all of the damage done with 2 outs. 4 consecutive Tigers reaching as Milligan skies that. And the catch is made for out number 1.
And a nice play by Miller down in foul territory behind first base. Unfortunate break for Milligan right there. Getting ahead in this count, 2-1. He saw a fastball up in the zone that he tried to turn on, just couldn't quite catch up to it. You saw his batting average on the year as he stepped into the box. Right around 151. Hasn't caught all that many breaks when he stepped up to the plate.
As now the first-year Caleb Woodward hitting for the second time today. Still looking for his first career hit. Walked the last time he was up. Takes strike 1. Ball too high.
A pretty competitive pitch from Schmidt right there. Misses just up over the top of the zone.
Strike 2.
Comes back and answers with that fastball on the outside part of the plate. Woodward, big lengthy frame in there. Nearly dropped it in. That's vertical aspect of this strike zone, probably greater than a lot of hitters.
And that gets him. A hit by pitch. And Woodward's aboard for the second time today.
Woodward, who we've seen and talked about a lot in the early portion of this year here in San Antonio, is not a guy that had reached base all that frequently in his plate appearances up until this point. So very good to see him reach twice in the early going here in San Antonio today, serving as a catalyst certainly for this offense.
He's now the catcher, Nicholas Lazara, who also walked in the first inning. Working in the same exact situation he found himself in last time. He takes strike 1, a runner on first base, and 1 out.
And Lazara walked in the first inning after that first base became unoccupied, Woodward getting on and moving pretty quickly in that at-bat. So we'll have to see if the same is in store here.
They check on Woodward. But back safely, Woodward stole a base in the bottom of the first when he was last here. Outside, 1-1.
Yeah, perhaps some quick, brief calls for runner right there, as it looked like Woodward bluffed on the base paths, at least started his feet and switched those hips, but very quickly slowed himself and retreated back to first.
They'll check on him again.
Typically difficult to tell when a guy is actually bluffing versus when he doesn't like the jump that he's gotten.
Upstairs, 2-1.
So far in this at-bat, Woodward not offering again after, we'll call it our best educated guess, just bluffing right there, allowing Lazara to work at the plate at the moment now that he moves ahead in this count 2-1.
Strike called at the top of the zone. And Lazara asking questions about that one.
And again, sometimes when you have the catcher stepping into the batter's box, you trust their opinion a little bit more so than the home plate umpires.
2-2. Similar spot, but call the ball this time. Full count.
Yeah, that time maybe a little bit further off the plate. Some arm side run on it that likely leaves Lazara a little bit lucky in the batter's box, as he'll still have an opportunity to swing it in a full count.
Runner goes, but ball 4 anyways. So Woodward walks, or Woodward gets hit by a pitch and reaches. Lazara follows him with a walk, and 2 aboard for the Tigers.
And perhaps ultimately leaving Woodward over there at first base proves to be beneficial for Trinity, as in a 3-2 count, probably the best time to send him. And that's exactly what happened right there. The calls for runner came from the infielders for the Gents, added pressure, likely not making that an easy delivery home for Schmidt.
As ball 1 is high to Christian Holloway. Holloway 0 for 1 today. He struck out in the first. This inning starting the exact same way the last one did. Milligan flies out, Woodward and Lazara reach. And now Holloway with an opportunity, a runner in scoring position, takes strike 1. Breaking ball high, 2-1.
And right now, this breaking ball for Schmidt landing what appears to be just outside of the zone, but we've seen it in that same spot quite frequently here in the bottom of the second. Certainly needs to make an adjustment if he wants to get that called for a strike.
Hit in the air towards the Centenary dugout and no play. So Holloway now in a 2-2 count. Lazara waits on first, Woodward on second. Tigers trying to extend this lead. Fouled off again.
And Schmidt now a little bit tighter in the strike zone. Got that second strike on Holloway and continuing to spot on the edges at the moment. Nice job from Holloway, just shortening up right there. Not necessarily worried about trying to put that baseball in play, but at least fights it off.
Close pitch, but called the ball. And another full count. We don't have the exact numbers, but quite a few full counts in these first 2 innings. Ball 4. Another walk handed out by Centenary pitching, and it loads the bases.
Yeah, and it comes right after Schmidt was able to get back into this at-bat. And then he goes back to a couple of consecutive breaking balls that hang up a little bit too much. It makes it a little bit too difficult for that home plate umpire to give him the call, and they're easy takes for Christian Holloway, who will take the 90 feet. Another walk that'll load the bases for the Tigers.
Between the starter, Jordan Hodges, and Logan Schmidt, 7 walks have been handed out by Centenary pitching. As Coach Diaz comes out to talk to Schmidt. You always wonder if this is a chat or a change. You'd think they're going to want more length out of Schmidt. This is a bullpen day for Centenary. They threw starter Cody Myers. He went 7 against UT Dallas on Tuesday, only allowing 1 run, and then Herrera yesterday. Also threw another starter in the first half of today's doubleheader, leaving them with mostly relief options remaining, and they're going to ride this out with Schmidt. Will face Brandon Nelson with 1 out and the bases loaded.
And a couple things that you have to wonder so early on, how many arms does Centenary have going? Would lean towards not all that many, but you also mentioned this certainly a bullpen game for the Gins. That increases the likelihood that they have some guys up and going, and will have them up and going for the duration of this.
Nelson jumped on that one, so he lined it foul to make it 0-1. You also wonder how many guys that threw in game 1 might throw in game 2. Rounded to first, could be 2. Throw to first, close play. They're going to call him safe, it looks like. And that should bring a run in as Woodward scores to make it 4-2.
I think as a coach, you do your due diligence in this scenario. Go out and argue this, or at least ask for a conference between field and home plate umpire. Real time, it looked like Nelson got there, and on the replay, we'll see that, well, that ball is very close to the glove. It doesn't look like Schmidt had that glove wrapped around the baseball with it secured as Nelson's foot was hitting the bag.
Well, they say tie goes to the runner, and I think that applies in that situation. The run scores to make it 4-2, an RBI fielder's choice for Brandon Nelson. Now Colt Harris will get another crack at it. He walked his first time up. Nelson waits at first base. Lazara at third. And as they say, Harris goes to make it 0-1. Outside, 1-1. Now 2-1. Good take by Harris.
Yeah, a couple of close misses right there for Schmidt, but virtually the same pitch. And after it was called a ball the first time around, absolutely no reason for Harris to offer at it the second time.
Runners at the corners, 2 down. Swing and a miss, strike 2.
Schmidt spotting that one, coming back with the fastball that we haven't seen that much as he's come into this game, but using it effectively as he uses it sparingly. Change of speed enough to get that right past Colt Harris. He was a little late to get his foot down.
That's strike 3, and that ends the inning. The Tigers leave 2 stranded, but they bring 1 more in as they extend their lead to 4-2 over Centenary. Top of the third in San Antonio. Luke Pfeiffer out there for his third inning of work, now with a 2-run lead as he faces Centenary's number 2 hitter, Carson Levisay. As Levisay takes ball 1. 0 for 1 with a fielder's choice. Swinging him a strike 1.
For Pfeiffer, important here in the top of the third to hang another 0 on the board. Doing a nice job there of finishing right down the middle, as you see Lazara again reminding his pitcher, finish everything down on this same line. And all of a sudden it has him ahead 1-2.
Grounded up the middle, tough play for Harris. Throw high, not in time, and the leadoff man aboard for the gentleman.
Yeah, I think your best hope on this one is that at short over there, Champness can range to get this behind the bag. Very difficult play for the second baseman, who has to come to the middle of the field. Harris was able to get it because he was shaded a little bit more towards second base, but the fact that he has to turn and then throw against his body doesn't really give him any opportunity to get that on to Nelson at first. Even if he had made a throw on the bag on target, I don't think it would have been in time.
Runner goes, throw hops, and gets away from Harris. Let us say another stolen base on the day. And there's a runner in scoring position for the Gents with nobody out.
And Colt Harris is absolutely taking a beating out there at second base. Last 2 games for Trinity, number of times that there has been quite a bit of contact, and he has hit the ground because of it.
Inside, nearly gets Miller, but just misses to be 2-0.
And now with a runner on, changes things certainly, as Pfeiffer has to think about it. Changes the complexion of his mechanics right there. His timing just off, and he loses that arm side.
Outside 3-0, in danger of losing Miller. This is the teeth of the Centenary order. Levisay aboard at second base. Alex Miller, I should say, a .329 hitter. And then Benoit, the cleanup hitter on deck. Ball 4, and he loses him. A 4-pitch walk handed out by Pfeiffer, and the first 2 Gents are aboard.
And that call from the home plate umpire maybe speeds things along just a little bit, opting for the 4-pitch walk instead of giving Pfeiffer the call on the outside part of the plate. But it's a spot that we've seen called a strike some of the time at least. I think Pfeiffer will live with that walk. Had the bag open at first and doesn't want to mess around with a dangerous hitter in Miller.
Another dangerous hitter coming up, and Benoit, who takes ball 1. 1 for 1 with a base hit in this game. The game earlier today, he went 4 for 5. Runner goes. Throw to second late, and Centenary pulls off the double steal.
And Miller, big, long frame. He was able to get going well enough on this one to beat it out with his long strides. A good throw, this time fielded cleanly by Colt Harris, who was able to hang on to it. But long arms of Miller able to reach into second base just ahead of that tag.
Fouled off, and it's 2-1. So Pfeiffer, who had looked to be settled in that last inning, now dealing with some base traffic. Second time through, now in the tough part of the Centenary lineup. Strike called, 2-2.
Yeah, a nice breaking ball that he drops in there on the top half of this zone, but aggressive base running here from Centenary in the early going. One of the reasons that they have 2 runs on the board.
Outside 3-2, doesn't get the call. And they wanted it. You hear somebody say, call it, from the Tiger dugout. Now full count.
biggest frustration has to be the lack of consistency with that zone.
Hit in the air to deep left field. Ranging back is Milligan. He makes the catch. Runners tag. And the throw not in time. Everybody's safe. And it's 4-3.
Yeah, good job of just understanding the situation right here. Benoit recognizing runners on second and third with nobody down in the inning. 2-run ball game, just getting one of them across. Maybe the opportunity to get both of them to advance, probably the biggest thing right there. Full count, he recognized the pitch that he can drive out to deep left field. And while it doesn't leave the ballpark, it certainly gets both runners ahead extra 90 feet.
Grounded to Tinker, throw in time. 2 down, but the run scores, and this game is tied.
Benoit, well, he's not out there still, has a big hand in that one. He's able to drive 1 run in, and he did, again, get it deep enough to left field that Miller advanced over to third. Boone doing a very nice job of just putting something in play, allowing that run to come home.
Is now Colin Pitts up. Went around for strike 1, operating in a tie ball game. Some good base running and small ball by Centenary. Hit in the air. Harris makes the catch in the outfield grass to end the inning, but not before the Gents tie the game. We'll head to the bottom of the third, tied at 4. Logan Schmidt back on the mound for Centenary in the bottom of the third as he'll face the leadoff hitter for Trinity, Jack Peterson. Takes strike 1. Peterson hitting .360 on the year, 1 for 1 today, a 2 RBI double. He gave the Tigers a 3-2 lead at the time. Low 1-1.
Peterson did so with 2 strikes in that count. A mistake pitch that just caught too much of the heart of the plate, and he made him pay.
Fouls that off to make it 1-2.
He's a guy that has a lot of pop in his bat, but is a very, very versatile offensive weapon.
Fouled off again as Peterson stays alive. Tied for the team lead in home runs with 3. Obviously up there in batting average, hitting .360. But 25 for 25 on stolen bases last season. Hasn't been caught this year either. So he takes ball 2.
He's a guy that I believe did lay down a bunt for a hit in yesterday's affair. Has that capacity, but unlikely that we see it right here with 2 strikes in this count.
Now fouled off again. Peterson continues to foul it off on the first base side ahead of these pitches.
And Schmidt continuing to use that breaking ball very well. Peterson recognizing that. Has to go get it before it has all of that break. Give himself an opportunity to see some mistake.
Fouled off again. So you'd imagine that's got to be frustrating for Schmidt. Peterson been in a 2-strike count for the last several pitches. That's what the Tigers have done all day. Worked multiple full counts on the Centenary staff, just wearing them down. Ball high, another full count.
Man, if you're Peterson in the batter's box, this is exactly what you're trying to do as a veteran hitter. Force Schmidt to try and spot something on the edge of the zone and hope that he misses like he did right there, or that he leaves something over the heart of plate that doesn't have the break he wants.
And that gets him. I think Peterson probably wondering why that had to, considering he would have taken first base anyways, but he's on first with a hit by pitch.
And great at-bat from Peterson right there, just fighting pitches off until exactly what we talked about. Ultimately, Schmidt missing that sends it to a full count and puts a little bit more pressure on him. And I think he felt it right there as he missed so badly on the inside that it catches Jack Peterson and gives him the free bag to open up the bottom of the third.
As Centenary head coach Mike Diaz coming out again, this time to take the baseball. That'll be the day for Schmidt, a new pitcher coming in for Centenary when we come back. New arm in for Centenary. It's Royce Congi, who we've already seen in games this weekend. And the first thing he does is check on Jack Peterson over at first base as he faces the 8-hitter Kai Tinker. Tinker walked his first time up. This is his second plate appearance. Takes ball one.
And Congi, an arm that came into game one today here in San Antonio between Centenary and UT Dallas, a guy that throws with a little bit of a different arm angle, drops it down just a little bit, has some nice arm side run on the inside to these righties, as you see right there. called the inside half of the plate to Kai Tinker.
Strike called there. Tinker working with nobody out and Peterson on first base. Though, having watched Jack Peterson for as long as I have, he will not be there for long. As they check on him. Centenary only got 1 inning out of their starting pitcher earlier today, Blaine Hardy. So, turned out to be essentially a bullpen game for them in game 1 of this doubleheader. Runner goes, hit up the middle, Peterson safe at second. Throw to first in time to get Tinker.
A hit and run on there for Trinity. Kai Tinker tries to execute it the best he can. Does a nice job of at least taking and throwing out at second off of the table. Just can't quite sneak it through that right side of the infield. It was both Boone and Morse crashing in the middle. Morse playing second base was able to get back cleanly after he recognized that batted ball, and as it didn't come off the bat of Tinker very hot, he was able to do so and retire him at first.
As Cam Champness takes strike 1. Champness 0 for 1 today, struck out looking to end the inning the last time he was up. Swing and a miss, strike 2.
Yeah, and he went down looking on a pitch not too dissimilar from that one right there. It was a breaking ball down and away that had him frozen with the bat in his hands, trying to avoid a similar result, and swings at something maybe a little bit out of his wheelhouse.
Runner goes, throw to third, not in time, and add another stolen base to the total for Jack Peterson.
Very impressive throw from Gauntz right here that nearly had him over there at third base. Typically an easier play for catchers to make. You don't have to throw all the way through. Just the 90 feet down there to third. Baker, again, showing the speed he has on the base paths, and now is going to force Centenary to bring their infield in.
Sacrifice fly, a possibility. As Champness puts it into center field, Peterson scores and the Tigers take back the lead. An RBI single from Cam Champness.
And a second time today where we've seen Centenary get hurt, mostly because they've gone to this infield in defensive look. You'll see as the angle changes, this one gets down but not super deep in that outfield grass. You have to feel as if Boone was out there playing in regular positioning at short. He might have an opportunity to jump up and snag that. Instead, it clears his head easily, and Champness reaches and gives Trinity the lead back.
Now Max Milligan up. Could be 2. As the throw gets away, they do not get Champness, who is safe at second. Out at first is Milligan, but this inning will continue.
Yeah, and Miller making the right decision here. You take the easy out at first, but it puts you in an awkward position as you have to put the throw right on the money as you take that force out away at second base. Champness would have needed to be tagged out right there. Miller short arms this throw just a little bit, given the fact that he didn't have a clear lane, and the inning will continue for Trinity.
As they check on Champness, who's in scoring position. Up to bat is Caleb Woodward. He has walked and been hit by a pitch, so reached both times. 2 outs, runner on second. Outside ball 1. Strike 1.
And a good pitch to Woodward right there. Gongi going back to that pitch with a little bit of movement, arm side run, moving away from the left-hander. Gets him back in this count even at 1-1.
Make it 2-1.
And seemingly trying to do the same thing right there that time. A little bit more vertical break as it takes it down and out of the zone as well. Probably an even easier one for Woodward to lay off of. And now we'll have the opportunity likely for a more hittable pitch over the plate.
Gets it through the hole. Champness being waved around. He scores. And it's 6-4 Trinity. The first hit of the career of Caleb Woodward is an RBI single.
And for the first time today, he's found his way on pretty consistently. And as you mentioned, finally finds a way to sneak one past Morse out there at second base. A good job on the base paths by Champness, who recognizes this one early with 2 outs, moving on any contact, and scores pretty easily in the end because of it.
You heard the support from the Tiger dugout, somebody shouting, "Get through," cheering on that baseball to keep going. It does. And Woodward is aboard with his first career hit with the Trinity Tigers. It extends this inning and adds another run as Nick Lazara comes up to bat. Lazara's walked both times he's appeared. Outside 2-0. Strike called.
Zara remaining in his stance right there, taking a long look down at the plate. Seen him pretty much every time he steps in. Not entirely satisfied with at least one of the calls made by the home plate umpire.
Grounded foul down the first base line. Luke, you being a former catcher, I'm sure you understand how he's feeling.
Yeah, I knew every strike zone like the back of my hand anytime that I stepped into the batter's box. I was always right. And I think that he appears to present in a similar manner.
Now a 2-2 count. Runner goes. And Woodward slides in safely. Throw gets in their center field. Woodward's going for 3. And he is there easily. Good base running from the first year.
Yeah, applying pressure still with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. A good time to not get too complacent, especially when you have your 3-hole hitter up. Even if you are to be thrown out, it will be a good start to the next half inning, bringing Lazara back to the plate. Instead, whether Woodward was to wind up at second or even third, as he ultimately does, gives him the opportunity to drive a run home.
Played into center field, and that's exactly what Lazara does. An RBI single makes it 7-4 as Woodward scores.
And with 2 outs, a ball that's hit straight back up the middle, right at Pitts in center field. Likely Woodward's not scoring on this one if he remains at first base. So some good aggressive decision making from the Trinity coaching staff, and it very quickly pays dividends.
As another visit from Coach Mike Diaz. I am quickly learning in this game that there is no limit to mound visits like there is in Major League Baseball. As Coach Diaz continues to talk to his pitcher, Kongi. Kongi, the 3rd pitcher that's been used for Centenary on the day. And make it 4, as that'll be the day for him. A pitching change in San Antonio. 7-4 Trinity in the bottom of the 3rd. In the game now from Centenary, Cade Godfrey from Nacogdoches, Texas. As you see the stats on the screen, has yet to allow an earned run, but now a tough challenge as he faces the cleanup hitter Christian Holloway. 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk. Takes ball 1.
And Centenary has proven over the past 2 days that they are a more than capable offense. For Godfrey coming into this one already with 2 outs, I think you just want to return to throwing strikes and see if you can induce some sort of soft contact or a playable ball for the defenders behind you.
Does so there as he fires in strike 1. Holloway working with Lazera on first base. Grounded to short. And they take the force at second to end the inning. But not before the Tigers extend their lead. It's 7-4 Trinity over Centenary. Top of the 4th inning, and San Antonio Tigers out to a 7-4 lead. As Luke Pfeiffer out there for his 4th inning of work, now working with a 3-run lead. As that's fouled off for strike 1. You'll see some people sitting in the front row. Those are members of the Trinity softball team. More to the left, right by the backstop. As that's called for a strike. Trinity softball sweeping their doubleheader of Shriner today. Now out to a 10-5 start as they begin conference play.
Yeah, very, very impressive beginning to their season.
Tinker makes the catch. Didn't look like he was going to have a play for a while. That ball dies in foul territory. And a sliding grab by Kai Tinker, much to Luke Pfeiffer's approval.
Yeah, just slicing away the entire time. We saw a ball down the line earlier that got pretty well out of play, and Tinker got all the way over the fence to give it a good look despite that. This time showing the same type of hustle, and it pays off. Nice job, and continues to flash leather here in San Antonio.
Does so again, throw offline. A good play by Tinker to get there, but can't finish with the throw. And the first base runner of the inning reaches for Centenary.
And it's Gaunce that time standing in the batter's box, who puts this one in an awkward position. It's Kai Tinker, who's again hitting the ground, having to lay out towards second base, not able to cut this one off and make it a little bit of a shorter throw for himself.
As they check on Gaunce at first, we'll see if that's credited as a base hit or an E5 on the throwing error. Either way, the 9-hole hitter Morse up. Hits that one sky high to left. And Milligan makes the catch for out number 2.
And a nice job from Pfeiffer right there, not being phased at all, recognizing the nice effort in the infield by Kai Tinker after he helped him rob and kind of steal the first out here in the top of the fourth. Recognizes that Tinker getting to that baseball hit to his left, impressive in its own right. He knocked it down, kept it in its infield, and made it a closer play than it otherwise would have been. Responds by getting out number 2.
That's high. It's a leadoff hitter for Centenary, Menard. Pfeiffer now working his 3rd time through the order. So check on the runner. Pfeiffer got into the 4th inning in his first start of the season against Babson, but exited in the 5th. Strike called. Of course, that was the game the Tigers were down 14-5 and scored 10 unanswered runs in the 8th inning. High 2-1.
And Pfeiffer has stepped into this starting role and adopted it quite nicely. I don't think he's the arm that was anticipated in this role coming into this year. You think about it from a variety of perspectives. A couple of arms in Harrison DeRoe and Jack Martinez, who left the program after the conclusion of last season on to much bigger and better things, to say the very least. I think that while they have certainly rehauled things in that bullpen down the left field line, they're still working to sort things out and dealing with injuries. And amongst all of that, Pfeiffer is doing everything he can to step into this role.
Pitch gets away, and Gantz takes a nice stroll to second. Puts himself in scoring position. As it is now 5 p.m. Central Time in San Antonio, Texas. High ball 4, and he loses them.
Yeah, and so we had the opportunity to talk to Joseph Shavana in that last game. He mentioned the distinction between good walks and bad walks, and well, that likely would have been a bad walk just 1 or 2 pitches ago, given the fact that first base opens up, doesn't want to threaten Gantz being able to come across and score a run to cut further into this deficit. Instead, that runner will reach.
That will be the day for Luke Pfeiffer. He exits this game with runners on 1st and 2nd, 2 outs in the top of the 4th, as we'll come back with a new pitcher. New pitcher in San Antonio is Jonathan Newman. He's thrown 5 innings, has a 1.8 ERA. As this pitch is in the dirt, throw to third, not in time. As Gauntz advances, runner at first stays where he is. That'll put him at the corners for Carson Livesay. Newman facing the teeth of this Centenary order. Livesay followed by Miller and then Benoit. There's strike one. Livesay 1 for 2 today. He's reached on a fielder's choice. Also has a base hit. High 2-1. Newman thrown into a situation with runners on first and second. Both of them the responsibility of starting pitcher Luke Pfeiffer. Fouled off, that evens the count at 2-2.
And Newman, a guy that has come in out of the bullpen this season and done a very, very nice job in the appearances he's made of just throwing strikes. Pfeiffer losing command and issuing a 4-pitch walk just a couple moments ago. I think Coach Dave Smith wanting to avoid that and wanting to keep things exactly where they are in a 7-4 ball game, trying to shut down this Centenary 2-out rally as quickly as possible.
They check on the runner again. As Menard waits on first base. Livesay waits in the batter's box. Hit on the ground to Champness. They go to Shortway to end the inning. Still 7-4 Trinity as we head to the bottom of the fourth. Bottom of the fourth in South Texas, leadoff hitter for the Tigers, Brandon Nelson. Nelson 0 for 1 today. Has walked and grounded into a fielder's choice. Takes ball 2. Nelson hitting below 200 on the year, but plenty of power in that bat. Takes ball 3. Nelson hit 4 home runs last year, has 1 this year, and it was in the first inning of opening day against Babson, a 3-run homer that started a 4-run inning. Takes strike 1. Still working ahead, 3-1. Hit hard but foul, and now a full count.
And a nice job from Godfrey right here, working back to get into it whatever way he can, not just giving up the easy free pass.
Grounded up the middle, and a leadoff knock for Brandon Nelson.
Had to come back and be ultra competitive right there, and ultimately what that entailed was throwing something over the plate. Brandon Nelson recognizing that, and in a full count at that point with 2 strikes on him, changes the approach just a little bit. Happy to use the entire field, and that time uses that middle third straight back up the middle.
Now Colt Harris, who squares up to bunt, pulls it back for ball 1. Harris averaging .308 on the year. Last season a .246 hitter, so that's significantly up in his senior year. Ball 2. Luke, one thing I'm sure everybody's noticing is that Centenary, any pitcher they've put in is just having a hard time finding the zone right now.
Yeah, they haven't had, across the last 2 days, all that many guys that can just come up here and overwhelm hitters. It's been a pretty significant reliance on breaking balls, and more often than not, we haven't seen super tight breaking balls that have just a little bit of horizontal movement. These have been pretty significant vertical breakers that have found their way outside the zone.
And that'll get Harris. He'll head to first base, probably not in the way he would have wanted. And the Tigers have runners at first and second.
Yeah, but I think at this point, Trinity, as they look to really break this game open, will take base runners in any way that they can find them. Nelson and Harris both reaching to start off the bottom of the 4th, and Trinity, as they bring now Jack Peterson to the plate, going to operate in the bottom half of this order, and we'll have the opportunity to turn it over to the top.
That'll be the day for Godfrey, a new pitcher, when we come back in the bottom of the 4th. Bottom of the 4th, a new pitcher in for Centenary. It's Colby Wilkerson, the sophomore from Kilgore, Texas. He's the 5th pitcher used by Centenary today. Comes in with 2 on and nobody out, facing Jack Peterson. Squares up to bunt, pulls it back for strike 1. Talking to Coach Diaz, he talked about the plan really for this weekend. Game on Tuesday against UTD. Game yesterday against Texas Dallas as well. And then today, as Peterson pulls that bunt back for ball 1. But he said he viewed this game as kind of the extra game with a 3-game series against UT Dallas, using the starting pitchers against Texas Dallas, and then a bullpen game, trying to piece something together against Trinity. You're seeing that today with the 5th arm used.
Yeah, I think that becomes especially understandable considering the fact that these two teams are in the same conference, and you don't want to tip your hat to your opponent and give them the opportunity to see any of those starters before you see them in the actual weekend series that has implications for that postseason tournament at the end of the day.
We've mentioned it before. These two teams will face on the last weekend of conference play. Runner goes, throw gets into center field, and the runners will advance. So now the Tigers have them at 2nd and 3rd, a chance to add on.
Yeah, and it's Nelson out there at second base who was getting some pretty big secondary leads, and Gauntz behind home plate wanted to test it, see if he could throw behind him and gun him down. But already a couple of times here today, we've seen some wild throws from these Centenary catchers. This time it's going to allow the Trinity runners to advance the extra 90 feet and take away the force out in the infield.
Swing and a miss from Peterson on a 3-1 pitch. And another full count.
Now another big RBI opportunity for Jack Peterson, who's already driven home a couple today. He'll have to do so in full count here, but he did so the last time with 2 strikes to his name.
Ball 4. And that'll load the bases again. The Tigers have had them juiced 3 of 4 innings, and they have it again.
Wilkerson certainly with an advantage there, throwing against Peterson. His breaking ball sweeping across the zone. Ultimately, 2 looping as Peterson was able to recognize that trajectory right out of his hand and lay off of it for ball 4.
As Tinker works with the bases loaded, he's 0 for 1. Grounded out the last time he was up. He's also walked. Now in a 1-0 count, the third baseman from Simi Valley, California, just outside LA. Pitch in there for strike 1.
Their Tinker right here. I have to imagine you're hunting for that breaking ball. Big sweeping pitch comes across the face. Backdoor opportunity that misses and hangs up there is a very, very hittable pitch that you can do some damage with out to left field, and that's the region of the ballpark that he's liked in his last couple of times out.
Ahead 2-1. Grounder up the middle. 1 run comes across, another being waved in. And it's 9-4 Trinity. 2 RBI single for Kai Tinker.
And with Wilkerson coming into this game as a lefty, more often than not, that means a little bit of a tick down in velocity. I think that's what you're used to seeing at pretty much every level of the game. If you're Kai Tinker, you combine that with this looping breaking ball, you know you have an opportunity to just jump on something and get out in front. It's exactly what he does right here. Nice job of being ready, sending that one back through the middle of the infield. Big spot for Trinity as they add 2 more to their tally.
Tigers now with runners at 1st and 2nd as Peterson stayed where he was. The 9-hole hitter Cam Champness up. 1 for 2. Squares up to bunt, pulls it back for strike 1. Champness has struck out looking and singled. That single, an RBI single. Cam Champness in his first career start with the Tigers. Bunts that down the third base line, but foul. And it's 1-2.
Based on the angle of his bat right there and the way he moved in the box, imagine that might have been an attempt at a drag bunt. especially still with nobody down. You've opened up this lead to 5 runs. I don't think there's any real reason to play small ball, try and advance those runners over further.
Grounded, could be 2 to second for 1 to first. That's 2.
Maybe one of the only things that you have the potential to avoid if you can get a bunt down is the double play. Ultimately, that's exactly what the Gents are able to walk away with. Live with Peterson advancing to third as now Milliken will step back into the batter's box. Has struggled a little bit at the plate today for the Tigers and represents a nice outlet for Centenary to get out of the 4th inning.
Milligan, the leadoff hitter, 0 for 3 today. 6-4-3 on the double play, grounded into by Champness. Peterson remains at third as that fouled off something that got a reaction.
Yes, Wilkerson is ultimately the man to go out and corral that baseball. Whatever it ricocheted off of, it got its way all the way out to the mound after the fact. Milligan, you could tell off the bat from that first angle, hit this ball really, really hard. It looked like it's perhaps off third base coach or actually Jack Peterson down there in foul territory.
But he looks to be okay as Milligan ducks under that one.
And you hear it right there. Maybe off first look, couldn't tell what it hit, but Trinity dugout letting us know he has a helmet for a reason.
There's strike 3 as Milligan goes back to the dugout with the 3rd out of the inning. 9-4 Tigers as they put up 2 in the 4th. Top of the 5th, Jonathan Newman back on the mound for the Tigers. As he misses away with ball 1. Newman going against Alex Miller, a star first year from Cypress, Texas. And he takes strike 1. Ball too low.
A nice spot from Newman right there. Tight breaking ball that misses just underneath the strike zone. Miller doing a nice job of laying off of it, and he does so for a 2nd consecutive offering right there.
Newman in danger of losing the leadoff man. Miller walked the last time he was up. Could have done it there, but swings through that to make it a full count.
And that one starting right over the heart of the plate, but very nice arm side run. It just continued, wouldn't stop as it got all the way in on the hands of Miller.
Fouled off as Miller stays alive. Centenary trying to find a way back in this game in the top of the 5th. Found themselves down quite a few runs at different points in the game against UT Dallas, as that's hit in the air to left field. And the catch is made for out number 1.
Nice job from Jonathan Newman right there, falling behind in this at-bat and then coming back with a couple more competitive pitches. He tried to spot it right off that corner and down and away, recognized that he wasn't going to get that spot called, understood that he was going to have to give some deliveries in the strike zone, and he did so. Recognizing this 5-run lead that he's now operating with, he had an opportunity to challenge Miller in the batter's box, and he did exactly that.
And he hits Benoit. So the first batter reaches in the inning for Centenary. So a runner on first for the Gents. Benoit hit by a pitch. Brings up Boone, who's at short today. Boone 0 for 2. And he takes ball 1. Strike 1.
And a nice job from Newman right there, getting back inside the strike zone. Exactly what you want to continue. Pitching to contact right here with this lead. Opportunity maybe to let the defense play behind you and hopefully turn 2 if he can induce some soft contact.
Misses with that pitch to make it 2-1. Centenary's had no problem scoring runs recently. 7 on Friday, 12 in the doubleheader today as they check on the runner who is back safely. Fouled off, making it 2-2. Centenary trying to avoid losing their 5th consecutive game. This is a team that finished 3rd in the SCAC in the regular season last season. Went 23-15, 13-7 in conference. As that's grounded up the middle. And they go the short way, or they go to first for 1. Runner safe at second, 2 down in the inning.
Yeah, and with how quickly Benoit was able to reach second base right there, I have to imagine that he was likely on the move on that delivery. Champness recognizing that, content to just take the 1 at first, and Newman retiring the second out here in the inning will have the opportunity to get out of it with no damage done.
Still working with the runner in scoring position as Colin Pitts is up to bat now. Pitts 0 for 2. He struck out looking and flown out. Takes ball 2. Two-0 pitch from Newman, 2 down in the inning. Strike called.
Yeah, and Pitts certainly not too happy about that call right there. Looked to be close on the inside portion of the plate, but Lazara lined up more so on the outside, had to reach and corral that one. Home plate umpire giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Swing and a miss, strike called, throw to third. In time, they got him to end the inning. Centenary continuing to be aggressive with their base running. Doesn't work out there. As you see it on the replay, tag applied in time as we'll take a break on Tiger Network. Centenary back to pitch next. Bottom of the fifth in San Antonio, the first-year Caleb Woodward, who was 1 for 1 today, set to lead off the inning. Takes strike one. Woodward, his 4th time up today, has reached in all 3 plate appearances a walk, a hit by pitch, and an RBI single. Strike called.
And the only time he didn't step into the batter's box in the bottom of the 4th. A lot of action here for this Trinity offense in the early going.
That's through the hole. Or lined out, I should say. It looks like either the shortstop or the third baseman hauled that in for out number 1.
Yeah, and a good piece right here from Woodward. Unfortunately for him, I think he sent it straight at Menard down at third base. Good job of waiting back on the fastball and being content to use the entire field. Hot shot just hit straight at the defender.
As Nick Lazara up with 1 down in the bottom of the 5th. Lazara 1 for 1. He's walked twice and singled. Take strike 1. Ball 1 low. Centenary trying to end what has been a long losing streak to these Trinity Tigers. As that's grounded to third. Menard makes the throw in time for out number 2. Centenary failed to beat Trinity last season. They met for 3 games in conference play, with the Tigers taking all 3 of those here in San Antonio, including a walk-off win in Game 3. 2 teams also met in the conference tournament, where Trinity ended up taking that game en route to a SCAC championship. As Christian Holloway steps into the batter's box with 2 down in the inning. He's 0 for 2 today. He's walked, struck out, and grounded into a fielder's choice. Strike called.
Yeah, cool. I mean, games in conference play always prove to be very, very interesting, especially up at the top of the standings.
Hit on the ground. And a good play at third. Menard ends the inning. All 3 baseballs headed in his direction as Centenary forces Trinity into a 1-2-3 bottom of the 5th. Top of the 6th in the Alamo City. Jonathan Newman back on the mound for Trinity as he faces Colin Pitts, who takes strike 1. Pitts 0 for 2 today. He's struck out looking and flown out to second. Taps that foul 0-2.
Very quickly falls behind here as Newman continues to throw quite a few strikes coming out of the bullpen. He's done a very fantastic job.
Newman, a good season so far. ERA continuing the dip with this appearance. Now on a 1-2 count. Swing and a miss, strike 3, as Newman retires the leadoff man.
And a really good job right there. Perhaps could define the previous offering as a waste pitch. Breaking ball that finishes down and away, easy to lay off of, but it comes right back in on the hands and ultimately might finish out of the zone, but it's been the arm side run that has helped out Brandon Newman pretty significantly today, and it does so again to start the 6th.
As the first strikeout of the day for Jonathan Newman, as he now faces the next Centenary batter. It looks like we actually have a pinch hitter here, as Newman works against Lenny Forth. Strike called. Forth hitting .270 coming into today's game. Inside 2-1. Forth, a regular starter for Centenary, making 11 starts this season. So he gets ahead 3-1. However, not starting in these last 2 games of this doubleheader. Strike 2 down the chute.
Jonathan Newman doing a nice job right there of making the adjustment, recognizing that he had lost a couple inside with the timing not being right. 2 consecutive pitches right there, fastballs that he finishes perfect timing right down the line to home plate and spots him middle outside portion of the zone.
Outside ball 4. No, strike 3 called. On that outside edge, the second consecutive strikeout for Jonathan Newman.
Forth was a good 5 or 6 steps up the first base line by the time that the umpire fully gives that punch out. I don't blame Forth for being on edge about that one. It was very, very close, but perhaps a situation where he understands it was close and wanted to sell it the best he could by taking off towards first base for the walk.
Yeah, I saw it out there. I saw him heading to first, and I was like, okay, ball 4. Not the case. A looking strike 3. As a breaking ball bends in on Gantz to make the count 0-2. Gantz 1 for 2 today with a base hit. He's also struck out. Fouls that off, and we'll do the 0-2 pitch again. No call, 1-2.
Yeah, but a good pitch from Newman right there. Starting that breaking ball in that spot, down and away to the right-handed hitter. Not a ton of break on it.
Got him looking strike 3. Newman strikes out the side as we head to the bottom of the 6th on Tiger Network. Bottom of the 6th back in San Antonio. 9-4. Trinity has the lead over conference opponent Centenary in this non-conference matchup. These two teams very familiar with each other over this game, not counting for conference standings, as Wilkerson back on the mound for the Gents, facing the leadoff man Brandon Nelson. Way outside, 1-1.
Yeah, Cole, but you talk about familiarity. These teams playing not just the 3 times last year in conference play, but getting the opportunity to see each other in that postseason tournament up in Cleburne. There's 4 teams making the cut out of the SCAC, playing in a double elimination format and decide who gets a bid to the NCAA tournament. These 2 squads, 2 teams that have been staples to move on to that tournament after conference play concludes.
Grounded to second, and the throw in time to retire Nelson.
But those other 2 spots, one of them usually occupied by Texas Lutheran. In the past couple of seasons, the 4th and final has been a little bit of a revolving door. St. Thomas was able to jump into that spot a couple seasons ago, but Southwestern, another very impressive program who we had the opportunity to see in non-conference and neutral game earlier this week on Tiger Network, looks to be returning to form, and I think at the end of this season we should be in store for a very, very good SCAC postseason tournament before we're comprised of really any 4 of those 5 teams.
Colt Harris up in the bottom of the 6th with 1 out. Hits that on the ground. Tough play at second, but it's made. Morse had the range over into the outfield grass, but makes the throw for out number 2.
Yeah, Morse making that one look easy, ranging all the way over and then ultimately deciding to spin to try and slow his momentum and create that throwing lane. Easy opportunity for that baseball to get away one way or another, but after he found himself squared up to first, he made that strong throw on the money.
Peterson grounds that to short and beats it out.
And a very, very close play there at first base. Peterson narrowly getting through and putting his foot on the base. We'll see a replay of it right here. Boone certainly cognizant of how well he moves. Peterson not fully overextending himself. Usually you just want to pick your feet up and get him down again. You see guys reach for that bag trying to take one final really long stride to beat out a throw, and more times than not, I think that actually hurts guys. They think they're getting there quicker, but it slows them down. And Jack Peterson just running that one out perfectly, getting that foot right on the nearest portion of the bag. And had he hit any other part, he might not have gotten in there safely.
Brings up Kai Tinker. Comes out with 1 on and 2 down in the inning. Tinker 1 for 2 in this game, singled the last time he was up. Grounded, and they go the short way to end the inning. 9-4 Trinity has the lead as we head to the 7th on Tiger Network. Top of the 7th in San Antonio, Jonathan Newman out to face the 9-hole hitter, Braden Morse. Morse 0 for 1 with a walk as he waves at strike 1. Now 1-1. But Luke, we want to get back to that conversation about the SCAC conference that both of these teams occupy. The Trinity Tigers, of course, the reigning SCAC champions. As that's grounded to short, Champness has the throw in time. A good play by Cam Champness.
Yeah, nice job of getting behind that baseball right there. Took a little bit of a glance off that pitcher's mound. Usually when it takes a ride off that bump, it can disrupt things. But Champness has been impressive defensively out there at short, not fazed by that one, and makes a nice delivery on the run.
Hit in the air over Champness. Gave a good effort, but the leadoff man, Menard, is aboard with 1 down.
Yeah, Cole. I mean, we just talked about the conference tournament, and we talked about some of the teams that very likely could be there. I think these 5 squads certainly have a little bit of an edge on the other members in the conference this season, and it's mostly because they've had that edge in the previous several seasons. But you can also talk about, how they're going to get there. Trinity winning the conference tournament a season ago, but they didn't go into it as the 1 seed. Assume there will usually be a little bit of parity between these teams, as I think that just comes with the nature of a conference in Region 10, region that we've talked about the last 2 days quite a bit, as one that has an identity of scoring a lot of runs. And when all of these teams are capable of pretty impressive offensive outputs, then it makes those series in conference play even more likely to be split in 2-1. And then, Centenary can very easily go out there and beat Texas Lutheran and drop to St. Thomas and beat Southwestern. And Trinity might have 3 different results against all of those teams. It's just going to be up and down all season long in this conference because of the way everyone is capable of scoring runs.
Parity in this conference shown by the 1 seed and the 4 seed, the 1 seed being TLU last season, the 4 seed being Southwestern, only separated by 1 or 2 games. In fact, we went into the final weekend with the possibility of all 4 teams having the exact same record. So the difference between being the 1 and the 4 seed, not a lot, as Carson Livesey fouls that off, working with a runner on first and 1 down in the inning. But we know these 2 teams will certainly be in the mix. Before Trinity won it last year, Centenary won the SCAC the year before that, knocking off the Tigers in the championship game. Trinity went into that series as the 1 seed. Centenary upsetting Trinity as Livesey takes strike 3 from Newman. His 4th strikeout in his last 5 at-bats.
And what a performance out of the bullpen for Jonathan Newman today. He has come into this one and truly shut the door. Now, full 3 innings pitched, just 1 hit given up. He hasn't walked anybody. Things have really slowed for Centenary after they've been pretty impressive all weekend long.
Tried to throw out the runner. Throw gets into right field, but he'll stay where he is. As Menard thinks better of the aggressive base running. That's hurt Centenary in this game at times. But you'd think that as we get into conference play this weekend, this upcoming weekend.
See this replay right here, you're right. This ball getting out into right field. Brandon Nelson was trying to pick it cleanly, and we have a break here in San Antonio because he's having a little bit of a meeting with the athletic training staff. He walked towards the Trinity third base dugout holding his wrist, and ultimately it will be a change for Trinity after that play.
So Diego Gomez will check in at first base. We know Brandon Nelson's had some issues with his shoulders. Looked like he may have landed on one as he was diving for that. You know, we talk about the bat of Brandon Nelson, but we've grown accustomed to seeing him make defensive plays out at first, particularly last weekend against Whitewater. Trying to make another one there, and he'll be substituted as his day is done. As now Alex Miller works with 2 down and 1 on. They'll check on the runner. But Menard able to get back. Swing and a miss, strike 1. Top of the 7th. Menard on first, 2 down in the inning. That's hit in the air to right and into the Centenary bullpen.
And Woodward giving that one a healthy look. As you can see, the flags have died down here in San Antonio. Most of this weekend, they've been blowing from left field to right field. They've helped push a couple of baseballs out over that right field wall. With a little less wind blowing, Woodward recognizing he might have an opportunity to end the inning a little early. Gave a long check-in down that right field line. Just couldn't get to it.
Thought about it, but takes ball 2 to even the count. Hit hard, but foul. And we'll do it again.
And Jonathan Newman stepped back onto the pitcher's mound right there, gave a little bit of a fist bump celebrating that foul ball. Just an offering to go. He went to that breaking ball down and away that Miller thought about very momentarily. I think that's exactly how you want to attack this guy. He's shown that he wants to turn on baseballs, pitching him down and away. Going to be very important to finish the 7th off strong.
Still in a 2-2 count. Good take, now a full count. Top of the 7th, Centenary held to 4 runs to this point. Grounded to Champness. He makes the throw to end the inning. We'll head to the bottom of the 7th on Tiger Network, still 9-4 Trinity. Bottom of the 7th in San Antonio. The 9th hitter up for Trinity. Rips it into left. And foul as Champness will go back We lost our left field camera for a second, so I couldn't quite see what happened, but he's going back to the batter's box.
And right off the bat, it looked like this one was going to be a fair ball. You can see it, but it just continues to trail and tail onto that left side of the foul line out there in left field.
Strike called on the inside edge, making it 0-2. Chapman so close to what would have been an easy double. You'd assume that ball would have taken a ricochet off of the Tiger bullpen, jetting out into foul territory. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Chapman strikes out for the second time today, and the leadoff man retired in the 7th.
Man, a pretty brutal turnaround for Champness right there. Maybe a foot or less separating him from standing on second base. Instead, he has to retreat to the batter's box, and Wilkerson on the mound recovers very nicely, returns to throwing strikes, and ultimately gets the punch out.
And the leadoff man, Max Milligan, 0 for 4 today, takes strike 1. Luke, I don't know if I've told you this story. I've definitely said it on the air a few times. But did you know Max Milligan is a bee farmer?
I think we have talked about this briefly.
As Milligan plays that to right, and the catch is made by the center fielder. Or not. Apparently that ball got down. Milligan stays at first base. He's aboard with a single.
And this one, a little difficult to read off the bat, and I think that was the case for the outfielders here. Just not the launch angle that it was going to carry all the way out to Pitts and Benoit out there in center and right field, respectively. Nice to see Milligan get on, as he's been able to put the ball in play pretty consistently, just not a ton of hard hit.
Slow grounder by Woodward, and no play. Everybody's safe, 2 aboard for Trinity.
Woodward continuing to flash his speed right there. We'll see his swing. He's significantly out in front of this breaking ball and just tops off on it. Recognized that it probably wasn't a pitch he wanted to swing at. Tries to check things and bring it back. Ultimately, puts more of a swinging bunt into play right there. Straight out to Morse at second, who charges to do everything he can, but Woodward just far too much speed on the base paths.
And it brings up Nick Lazara, back-to-back singles for the 2 hitters ahead of him as he takes strike 1. Milligan, the leadoff man in today's lineup, reached kind of a blooper out to center, and then Woodward just rolls over one, slowly rolled enough for him to get to first base. Swing and a miss from Lazara. It's 0-2.
Yeah, and that first pitch being called a strike, influencing this at-bat, as that next offering still down in the zone forces Lazara to start his hands, but some good vertical drop right at the end of things gets him to swing over the top of it.
There's strike 3. Breaking ball bends back in, and Lazara's down on 3 pitches.
And a very good job from Gauntz behind the plate on this one. A backdoor breaking ball that's very close to the zone, but he's very, very subtle in his frame job. Don't want to be over the top and exaggerated to bring it over the middle of the plate. You just want to try and convince that umpire back behind home plate that it caught just enough of the outside edge, and that's exactly where Gauntz moved his mitt.
First pitch low for ball 1. Going against Christian Holloway, who's 0 for 3 today. Still hitting over 360 on the season. Was a 324 hitter last year. Outside 2-0. Trinity's had the bases loaded 3 different times in this game. A walk would load them again. Swing and a miss, strike one.
Holloway recognizing breaking ball right there, understanding he might have something to tee off on. We talked about it already on the broadcast. He's liked those pitches down in the zone the past 2 days, just well out in front of that one.
Ball three. Tigers coming off of a 1-0 win against UT Dallas last night. Christian Holloway, the only RBI of the game on either side. And he loses them. Bases loaded for the 4th time today. The second walk of the game worked by Holloway. Loads the bases for Brandon Nelson. Or I should say Diego Gomez, who will pinch hit for Brandon Nelson, as we'll get a pitching change in San Antonio. New pitcher in for Centenary. It's Will Riley. He's pitched 2/3 of an inning coming into this one in his second appearance. As he throws ball one to the pinch hitter for Trinity, Diego Gomez, who replaced Brandon Nelson after he got hurt at first base. Comes in with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Inside 2-0.
And Gomez, in the early portion of this year, has earned his fair share of plate appearances.
Outside 3-0.
I think in those, he's shown that he's more than capable. Appears very poised and veteran in the batter's box, despite that status as a first year, though he might not have the opportunity to show it. Likely not going to get a green light in a 3-0 count.
Does not, and it's 3-1. Hit on the ground and foul. And that brings us to a full count.
A dangerous one right there. A Fastball left up in the zone that Gomez was trying to get on top of and did so effectively, just a little bit too much.
On the ground, slowly driven to first. And Riley covers to collect the third out of the inning. Centenary gets out of the bases loaded jam, still 9-4 as we head to the eighth. Top of the eighth in San Antonio, 9-4 Tigers lead the Gentlemen in this non-conference edition of Centenary and Trinity. Leading it off for the Gents, it's Austin Benoit. Benoit 1 for 1 today with a sacrifice fly, hit by pitch, and a single. So he makes his fourth plate appearance. It's that up the middle for a base hit. A leadoff knock for Benoit.
And again, while Centenary trails in this one, they'll have an uphill battle if they want to try and come back and get a victory. It seems pretty unlikely. It would send them to an 0-3 record here in San Antonio across the last 2 days. Benoit has been one of very few bright spots, but he has been very bright.
Benoit 2 for 2 today as he ends the day for Jonathan Newman. A pitching change in San Antonio when we come back on Tiger Network.
Now pitching for Trinity, number 32,
New pitcher for the Tigers in the top of the 8th. It's Trajan Lee, who comes in with a 1-0 record and a 1.8 ERA. As he faces Joby Boone, who takes strike 1. Boone 0 for 3 today. He's grounded out twice and struck out once. Strike called on the outside edge. We last saw Trajan Lee on a Tuesday game against Mary Hardin Baylor through more the middle section of the game, but before that it was the comeback win against Babson. That's the game he earned the win in. So that's grounded to second, could be 2. Throw to first in time. And the base runner is erased, 2 down in the 8th.
Lee comes in and gets his job done very quickly. A hard hit ball on a line, but unfortunately for the Gents, it's right to Colt Harris at second base. It's a nice job. Easy flip right on the mark to Champness, who turns, makes that strong throw with plenty of time remaining.
The 4-6-3 double play puts the first 2 outs on the board, and now a pinch hitter, Andrew Landry, comes in for Colin Pitts. Landry started game 1 of Centenary's doubleheader as he pulls back the bunt for ball 1. But Trajan Lee pitched in that game against Babson, earned the win because he had thrown the top of the 8th. Tigers storm back, score 10 runs in the bottom of the 8th to win the game 15-14, as that's hit in the air into left, and that ends the inning. Trajan Lee comes in and shuts the door. 9-4, the Tigers still lead as we head to the bottom of the 8th. Leading it off for the Tigers in the bottom of the 8th inning, the second baseman Colt Harris. As he takes ball 1. Harris 0 for 2. Grounded out the last time he was up. He's also walked and been hit by a pitch. And takes the ball inside. Not so sure about that one. Fouled off, and it's 2-1. Got to talk to Coach Mike Diaz about the unusual nature about this being an out-of-conference game against Trinity. Mike Diaz, Centenary's head coach, and he said that he hopes to have the same intensity in this game that you would see in a conference game. because I asked him how it would be different. He said he expects the intensity level might drop just because, I mean, the situation would be completely different. You play Trinity in the conference, that means everything as Harris draws ball 4 and heads to first base. But he hopes that that intensity level can stay the same for his team and that there's really no drop-off in terms of that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of interesting elements. Obviously, you talk about whether it's coined a non-conference or conference game. With Hellings and Shavana coming to visit us earlier today, and the last game that we had the opportunity to call. I think, we got a little insight from those guys. They still have an understanding of who's lining up across from them. And still Trinity and Centenary on the chests of these jerseys. I think one of the real interesting factors here today is how frequently do you actually get the opportunity to play a double header in the middle of a season against 2 different opponents?
Peterson grounds that one. And Harris is thrown out at second base, so the sacrifice not complete. Peterson reaches on a fielder's choice.
Yeah, interesting outcome there. This is a Trinity offense that is typically pretty good at executing in situations like that. Peterson, guy that can bunt for a base hit with some regularity, has been pretty impressive this season with his ability to place those baseballs where he wants them. That time, not the case, as he sends it directly back out to Riley. And his defense behind him communicating very well, letting him know that he has that play available at second.
So now Kai Tinker, the 8-hole hitter, comes up to bat. 1 for 3 today as he singled and walked. Grounded into a fielder's choice the last time he was up. But I really like that point you make about this matchup, that it still being Centenary and Trinity. Even if it's more of an exhibition game than a conference game, still means something because of who you're playing. Peterson goes, throw, gets into center field. Peterson's going to take third. And he does so with ease as he slides in head first.
Yeah, Peterson applying pressure on the base paths and applying another errant throw. Gaunt's trying to gun him down, but at this point, he might be better served just holding on to the baseball. Peterson, as you mentioned, Cole, perfect on the season a year ago in his stolen base attempts, and it was a pretty big sample size. It's almost an impossible task. You really need your pitcher and catcher working together perfectly to control the running game.
Peterson now 5 for 5 on stolen bases this season. So if I do my math correctly, the last time, because I calculated this at the beginning of the year, so we need to add the 5 to what he's already done. He is 33 for 33. As Tinker fouls that back, no play. He's 33 for 34 on his career, though.
I was going to say, remember you talking about it last night, the only time that he has been thrown out was in his first collegiate steal attempt. So he's definitely turned things around. It's been a much better trajectory from where he started.
So that pitch is inside to make it 3-2 to Tinker. That game against Schreiner, game the Tigers won. First career hit and RBI. Tried to take second, did not get it. And he's never had that experience of walking back from second base again. As that's grounded foul, Tinker stays alive.
Nice competitive pitch from Riley right there, putting it in that corner down and away from Tinker. Breaking ball had him just out in front of it. Fortunately for him, able to get a piece of it off the very tip of his bat.
Strike 3. Tinker goes down looking. And there's 2 down in the inning with Peterson still at third.
And after that last pitch on the outside part of the plate, Tinker, I don't think anticipating this one to come back in a little more so on his hands, especially with that little late arm side run. Gave a long look at it, but not much of an appeal to the home plate umpire. I think recognized it was just a perfect spot from Riley.
It's now Cam Champness, the shortstop up. Already has 1 RBI today, a chance for another one. Tigers have a 5-run lead as Champness grounds that foul. We saw Centenary score 5 runs in an inning each of their last 2 games against UT Dallas. So definitely within the range of possibility.
It's a scary thought, Cole. It's been a lot of really good baseball here today on Tiger Network, but it has been a lot of baseball here on Tiger Network. Got underway at 11 o'clock this morning, and we're closing in on 6:30 here shortly.
We had 3 hours and 45 minutes in game 1 between Centenary and UTD, a game that ended 16-12. We had many guest speakers to pass the time for 4 interviews. As that's driven to center field. And it falls. So Champness is aboard with an RBI single. Peterson scores, and it's 10-4. So that should ease your worry a little bit.
Yeah, and off the bat, looked like Champness got pretty well underneath this one, somehow just finding a hole out there in left center field. Livesey and Landry unable to get to it. Champness finally catches a break offensively with a bat in his hands, gets one to fall in as Max Milligan now stepping back into the batter's box. 1 for 5 day in his own right, and it was his last time up where we finally saw some good fortune go his way.
A base hit his last time up that somehow fell. Similar to Champness's. I thought he got under it, would have been caught. But it falls. As that's going to fall as well. Champness comes home. He's safe. And it's 11-4. An RBI double from Max Milligan.
And an unfortunate break, a couple of at-bats in a row for these Centenary Gents. 2 not incredibly hard-hit baseballs that just hang up there, and ultimately they can't track them down. This one off the bat of Max Milligan dropping in there, and Cam Champness with 2 outs was hustling all the way around from first base, making sure that he came across to score and give Trinity even more insurance.
It's now the first-year Caleb Woodward up once again. Woodward 2 for 3 today, and the only time he didn't reach, he lined it out to third. So he's either found a way on or gotten good contact each time. Last time up, slowly dribble the ball down to second and beat it out. Up to the plate with Milligan waiting on second. Hit in the air to deep right field. Back at the wall, it's gone. The first career home run of Caleb Woodward, his 3rd hit of the day.
And Woodward got down the line in a hurry on that one, but coming down the home stretch, he'll take a little bit more time for himself. He celebrates with his team as he heads back to the dugout, but boy, did that one get out of here in a hurry. Caleb Woodward showing off his hands. Talked about it pretty extensively. He's got a pretty big frame standing in there from the left-handed batter's box, but one that I think we can anticipate will fill out quite a bit over the next several years, even for the time being. Very quick hands, and when that's the case, you can turn on baseballs like that.
As Nicholas Lazara steps up to the plate with the bases now cleared, a 13-4 Trinity lead. Thanks to the 2-run shot from Caleb Woodward, his first of his career. We've actually heard stories about people first meeting Caleb Woodward. Showed up to practice. He was injured when they first reported. So nobody really got to see him on the field. They just see this scrawny first year, and they're like, what's he going to do? And then they see him play, and they're like, whoa. And I didn't want to say this on the air until people saw it, but people rave about Caleb Woodward.
And he's living up to the billing with the performance here today. Even with that one line out to third base that kind of ruins a perfect afternoon, he has been very, very impressive. You know, you look at that Trinity outfield, you have a couple of lefties in Peterson and Woodward that mimic each other in their games just a little bit.
That's hit into the outfield and caught to end the inning. Bottom of the 8th, that sees the Tigers extend their lead to 9. We'll head to the top of the 9th when we come back. Top of the 9th, Centenary down to their last 3 outs, and they have 9 runs to make up as Zachary Van Gorkum comes up to the plate and takes strike 1. Pinch hitter for the Gents, who have not had the trip to San Antonio that they hoped for. Dropping all 3 of these games, they're about to fall to 5 and 8, barring something miraculous. This will be a 5-game losing streak for them. But as Coach Diaz talked about, it really only matters in conference play. Swing and a miss, and that's 1 and 2. Everything Centenary wants is still ahead of them.
Yeah, and this portion of the year not mattering all that much per se, as we don't have the angle that we need for it on Tiger Network, but I think Trajan Lee is having no issue calling his own pitches right now. You know, when you go out on the mound, you watch him go through warm-ups, you get the little flick for the fastball, you have a little push for that changeup. I think we got it a couple of times in a row right there. Might need to see a replay, but you can see it again. He's continuing to show exactly what he's going to throw, and these Centenary hitters just can't hit it at the moment.
As he strikes out the first batter he faces for out number 1. That one gets back to the backstop on Gauntz. It looks like a new catcher in for the Tigers as well. That's the first year Matthias Riding. And you get a replay of what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's the push, and changeup's coming. And then he throws it, and he gets the check swing for the strikeout.
Yeah, there it is. We'll see on this pitch. Swing and a miss, strike one. So let's see what the signal is here.
It looked like a changeup again.
Based on the way he was holding it, too.
And coming in there pretty high velo.
Yeah,
Has a little bit of that tail on
I
it.
don't know if that was the changeup.
We just don't have the right angle.
There's the push.
There's the push.
Yeah.
This should be the changeup. It's close. Certainly off speed, slows it down just a little bit. I think a little more obvious that time, but not getting that break arm side that is traditional with the changeup.
As that's hit up the middle. And the Gents have a runner on with one out with a base hit from Gantz.
And I was reminded on Twitter the other day of some similar things, some similar behaviors by Zach Greinke in a playoff game, signaling to his catcher exactly what he wanted to throw. I understand feeling confident out there on the mound, but when you go against high-level hitters, eventually you will pay the price for telling them what's coming.
We'll see if that happens to Trajan Lee. Or strike one. I haven't been seeing the signals recently, unless I'm just missing them.
Yeah, gave up that single on what he told the hitter would be a fastball, and I think has moved away from showing his hand, tipping his hat.
Yeah, maybe he wants to get out of here too.
Doesn't want to extend this inning any longer than he has to.
Gantz, the runner on first for Centenary, in a 9-run hole. So that's fouled off to make it 0-2. We talk about the losing streak for Centenary, but all of a sudden Trinity finding their stride. It was not looking good. First two games against Wisconsin Whitewater, they get outscored 35-5. They win the next two games in the series. And they win 2 games this weekend as well. Swing and a miss. Strike 3 on the foul tip. And there's 2 down in the 9th.
Yeah, but it's been an interesting start to this year. Of course, you look at that Babson series and you say, it's great to start with a sweep. But game 2 looked to be as close to a sure loss as anything, about 6-7 innings through it. Trinity needed 10 in the bottom of the 8th to ultimately come back and get that one. And, you know, outside of that, this first stretch of games, almost 15 in at this point, and closing in on that number, has been far from perfect. Dropped a midweek game against Mary Hardin Baylor this week as well that I'm sure they would love back. You know, 2 hits, 3 runs is respectable, but just 2 hits is not what this team has been able to pride itself on in the past. But I think they're still coming into themselves and certainly showed improvement their last 3 times out.
When you talk about all the questions, the issues with consistency offensively at times, certainly better than last year, but still prevalent. And then the questions that come out of the bullpen, which I think somewhat have been addressed today with the performance of Jonathan Newman. But they're still 8-3 with a win today. All those questions, still many more to be answered. Still in a position headed into conference play with a very good record. So they host UT Dallas tomorrow. That game will be at 1 p.m. Central Time, first pitch. Be sure to tune in on Tiger Network. Grounded to short. And safe. So apparently the umpire doesn't want to go home.
Yeah, pretty close play out there at second base. It's Berglund, who's on the base paths for the Gents, who's running this one out rather hard. You'll see Colt Harris, who puts his right foot back on the bag at the last second. I can't tell if it's a precaution or if he really did miss the bag with his first attempt to step on it. One way or another, just the way that sequence played out, I think it influenced the field umpire to call the runner safe. And you're right, Cole, things will continue in San Antonio.
I would assume it's the second one as Carson Livesey comes up to the plate. I say the umpire doesn't want to go home in all jest, of course. Obviously, he needs to make the calls. Strike called.
Yeah, but certainly a little doubt being left in his mind as Colt Harris tries to circle back and throw his foot on the base a second time around.
Trajan Lee trying to end this game for the Tigers. Centenary down to their last out. Swing and a miss, strike 2. As tomorrow for Trinity, it'll be Jackson Tier on the mound, coming in with an ERA of .53. Has, I believe, 34 strikeouts in 2 outings, which is unheard of. 1-2 pitch, fouled back as Livesey stays alive. But that's what you look forward to tomorrow.
For Tier, it's been as close to video game numbers as you can possibly get.
Centenary down to their last strike in this game. Runners on first and second. Fouled off.
And good fight from Centenary here in the top of the 9th, even though they're down big time in this one. Have refused to just give in easily, have fought in these at-bats and on the base paths and extending this out and for Trajan Lee at the moment.
Into the 1-2 pitch again. Close, but no dice. As it's 2-2. Strike 3. And the Tigers win. An impressive performance all across the board by Trinity. They win this one 13-4.
Yeah, and ultimately it's the performance of these guys out of the bullpen that I think deserves the most praise. Jonathan Newman, absolutely spectacular, shutting the door on a Centenary offense that was very, very good all weekend long. But the majority of that work, the runs and the hits, came against Luke Pfeiffer, who started this one. Newman really stopped handing out the free passes on the bases. And then at the end of it, Trajan Lee came in, took the baton, and crossed the finish line for the Tigers.
Trinity ends this one with a 13-4 win over their conference rival, the Centenary Gents. The win moves the Tigers to 8-3 as they'll play host to the UTD Dallas Comets tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Tiger Network. Be sure to tune into that one. That's it for us in San Antonio today. Thank you to everybody who stayed over spring break to work this game in the control room, particularly Josh Muchagemba and Reed Rosales. Big shout out to my partner, Luke Terry. I'm Cole Isaacson saying so long from San Antonio. We'll see you tomorrow.